This is Professor Pete Alexander with the Winning at Business and Life podcast, where business leaders share their insights. It is 6 questions in 7 minutes because successful business leaders are busy and rarely have more time to spare. So let's get to it. Question number one: in a few sentences, please tell me who you are and what you do.
Hi, Professor Pete. This is Cory, Warfield, founder and chief visionary officer at Shedwell. I sit on several advisory boards, serial entrepreneur, mentor. I like to help build ecosystems, and I've developed a bit of a presence on social media.
Corey, it's so great to have you on the show. Question number two: what's the best thing about working in your industry?
The best thing working in my industry, being workforce management technology right now, is being able to help companies kind of get back as we figure out what life looks like post, traumas and pandemics and such, and being able to help workers as well in communities. A lot of what we're doing right now is really just focused on communities. Less, we've kind of stopped the sales cycle, and we think that we've built some powerful communication tools and just being in the right places where things intersect. And that's it. Just exciting. It really is rewarding in more ways than one.
Oh, it sure sounds like it. Question number three: I have a fictitious book with all the answers for business. What chapter would you think most companies should read?
I would say that the problem, probably to me, it would be kind of that social stewardship, right? What we're seeing right now, as well, the companies that are giving back. I think that culture is really coming en masse, and I think that the companies that aren't finding meaningful ways to give back on more levels than one to their customers, to their employees, to their communities, are not going to be the companies that we see moving forward.
That's very insightful. Thank you. Question number four: other than the generic work harder, have a great attitude, and care for customers, what advice or insight would you give to other business leaders?
I think some already know this, but those that don't practice it enough, I would just say listen, and that's something that's really been powerful for me as well. I think listening is a tool that can be leveraged in so many ways.
I think that's really so important. And it's so simple because if you think about it, the if you take it from the opposite side, and when somebody perceives you as not listening, it ends up adding stress to them because they don't feel like they're important enough. I mean, how would you expand and talk about that? In from maybe the opposite side if you don't listen.
Yeah, well, I think to your point, it really is easy for people to disengage mentally, for people to feel defensive or pushed away. Whereas if you listen, often people will tell you what it is that you were hoping to hear anyway. And I think it does build that trust factor. Uh, I've now learned that I can get prospects on a quick phone call. And some things in business get easier the more successful you're perceived, and some get more challenging, right? But where people really do come to you with agendas or whatever it might be. I think that if you listen to that rather than defend against it and try to change things, sometimes there's an opportunity there. Sometimes a no is the best thing that you can get to quicker and sooner as well. So I think just with respect to everybody's time, I'm in the time management space. Get in, get out, get to the point. Not so many pleasantries. I think that kind of all ties back into consideration of time, consideration of resources. And I think a lot of that can be achieved by listening right out of the gate. And I think it just makes you more approachable as well. And, frankly, it lends to a good reputation.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And the point about the time, that's a precious resource because once it's gone, you don't have it, can't get it back. So keeping it really focused is very insightful. Question number five: what other business leader like yourself would you like to acknowledge and invite to be on my podcast?
So there are a lot because I work with so many, but one that comes to mind is Megan Arthur of Mother Lover. She's doing some really cool things that I think are very timely, and I think she'd be a great guest on your show as well, Professor.
Wonderful. I'll reach out to her. Thank you for that referral. And our final question number six: please tell me about your first job.
So I had a couple all kind of at the same time. I parked carts in a grocery store. I worked at an Office Depot. I was a bartender at 16 years old, but I think the one that really jumps out all from that same time was I was puttying frames at a fine art store to make the picture frames. So I would blend the colors and put through the holes where the cracks were and the nails went in. And that was really just kind of a way to live in my own world, be somewhat artistic, have to be somewhat a perfectionist, although I'm fond of saying that perfection is the enemy of progress. But that stuck with me some, I hate to say it, probably almost 30 years later at this point.
I love that, and you know, I really have a true appreciation for the people who can do those frames because when I try and do it at home, I just don't have that capability. So when it comes out like a masterpiece from one of those stores, I commend you for having that creativity.
Well, thank you so much. And thanks for having me as well. This
You
was
bet.
fun.
It's so Corey, it's been great to having you on the show as well. How can people find you?
I feel like I'm everywhere on social anymore, but I think the hashtag Cory Connects, CoryConnects, is a pretty good way to find me on most platforms. And I'd say where I probably spend the most of my time and where I probably engage the most is on LinkedIn.
Perfect. This is Professor Pete Alexander with the Winning at Business and Life podcast. For more insights and ideas, please go to LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, or iTunes and search for the Winning at Business and Life podcast. Thanks for listening.